Hard to make my mama proud as a problem child. Being brown in the hood, had nobody looking out. I missed my graduation, I was in prison eating chow. Being loyal to a set had me squeezing off them rounds. Tell you life is real when you can't afford a light bill. Got demons in my sleep, had to learn to shake them night chills.
Hey, yo, what's good with everybody, man? I hope everybody's having a productive day. For the blessing, like I always say, it's one life, one chance. We only got one chance to do this right. Let's get it done. With that being said, I'm going to need you guys to watch this whole video and understand how I break everything down. I'm going to explain my reasoning behind it. I'm not going to leave out no details. I'm gonna be as thorough as I possibly can. This video is going to be interesting. Y'all already see the thumbnail. So, let's get it together. With that being said, hit that subscribe button, hit that like. Always leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. For those that are familiar with me and Snoop's situation, you know, he did put me on blast on a convict's perspective. And no, to this day, I don't really blame a convict's perspective about that. He was doing his job when it comes to entertainment purposes, you know, and monetary gain. And that's in accordance to his platform. That's what he does. So in the beginning of my channel, and even up to this day, my reputation was at stake. You know, I got put on blast, and people didn't really understand why. A lot of people ran to his side, making fun of me. You know, I had to take those blows, and I had to develop a thick skin in order to continue to have the success that I've had. But see, I've dismissed a lot of details regarding my situation because I turned this platform into something different, something positive, you know, creating a positive messages for the youth, sharing my prison stories, so on and so forth. Now, as I'm finishing up my book on my laptop, you know, I'm on the last chapter. It's called The Embracement. The embracement is I got to break down, you know, how I was embraced as a writer, you know, the intricacies that I went through. And I have to also explain the dynamics of the movement and how I went from 2000 up until today, only pertaining to my involvement in my discussions and my interpretations and what I've went through and what I've learned. But I had to introduce Snoop's picture based on the fact he's one of the originals. But I also do mention the other original members that actually were there with him and started it all. I don't base him as a sole founder, as he has. But one of the details that I want to introduce to you guys is this. When I first got out, I wasn't in touch with him through Rebecca because he was undergoing that indictment. And he cut ties off with everybody. He told everybody not to contact him. He doesn't want to be talked to because he was really trying to beat that case that him and Scrappy had going against each other. But another individual that actually did keep in touch with him that he was best friends with almost 15, 20 years is also a friend of mine as well, part of the same movement. He actually discussed with Snoop what I was doing on behalf of the movement, on behalf of writers, that I was trying to give a better interpretation of what this movement consists of or what my members consist of. Because in my actuality, everybody had a bad outlook on us. And oftentimes we have that same bad look towards each other because a lot of us come out here and do good. A lot of us come out here don't even represent who we are. You know, we are who we are, but we come out here just to get jobs. We don't want to go back to prison. We don't want to go back to the joint. We want to come out here and spend time with our families and just make a proper living without having to be dealing with the threats and interferences by Northerners or any active members out here just because of some political views that they have. And that that's been embedded in them that, you know, we shouldn't belong out here. We should be moved out. We should be ran out. We should be targeted on a daily basis. That's a very unfair disadvantage to be living in every day. So by me performing this YouTube channel and actually conducting myself in a proper manner and going about it in a different fashion and creating a message for it was my way to show not only my people that we can make a change and we can make a difference and that we don't need to be out here with the gangbanging mentality. But it was also to change the outlook of everybody else to stop targeting us, that just to leave us alone. That's always been my ultimate goal, along with, you know, sending a message to the youth that they don't take this path that I had to take, that my boys had to take, because look how we're living. Don't take the path of an active member because of what you're going to go through. You know, I have that right and entitlement to speak about it. He told this individual that he wanted to help me, that he was proud of me. I had the messages and I've showed him. I just didn't put them on blast on YouTube. And he said he was going to do everything within his power to assist me in my YouTube channel. So everybody was under that impression. So was I. And I waited and waited. Nothing happened. And then he appears on A Convict's Perspective and just creates this big old debacle and diminishes my image and defames me, defames my whole characteristic. And it put me in a bad standing where my own people had to look into it. And behind closed doors, what people don't know, because all they see is my first videos and his videos on Converse Perspective, it's just us going at it. But private, there was a couple of people calling me from the Bay trying to investigate it, understanding what was going on. Conejo was involved. Come to find out, he pretty much did that because he felt like I was using the movement for personal gain, that I was just trying to chase clout and get rich and create a big image and a YouTube channel and make money on behalf of the movement. Misinterpret the fact that I was using this movement to show people that, we're different people, to leave us alone, to make a change. So a lot of people didn't know that, weren't privy to that information. And just recently, maybe a couple weeks ago, we had a big meeting. And we talked amongst members that are in different areas, from the Bay to Tulare County and Kings County. And that person validated it. He said, yeah, bro, this dude did it the whole 360. In the beginning, he was supposed to help this dude. He was supposed to elevate his game, do the interviews, so on and so forth. And he goes, and out of nowhere, a year later, he just switched his mentality. So that gave the people that I keep in touch with that support me in this channel and support what I'm doing a different perspective on what was taking place. But I never put all this private information on YouTube because, there was something that we were trying to talk amongst ourselves. And, at the end of the day, this is my livelihood. This is, I got to live with not only actives targeting me, but now my own people targeting me. That's an uncomfortable way to live. So I've been reaching points in my life where I'm trying to kill a lot of these issues. That way I could proceed with just taking care of my kid and my family and just living a productive life. And you doing this YouTube channel, living my job. I finally got the job that I wanted after 3 years of applying. I started today. It's a union job. I'm comfortable with it. That's all I was doing, is positioning myself for a better life. So as I'm typing this book up, I do get his pictures. And I was going to introduce certain things that I know that people are unfamiliar with into the book to validate the story. But I come across his paperwork, his case law that he appealed with the federal courts. And it blew my mind. And if you see that on the screen, that's his case law. I'm going to leave it to the whole video. You can actually look it up on Google. And I read his paperwork finally for the first time. And I was confused. And the reason why I know this paperwork is it's consistent with him, because in prison, he always bragged about that he owned businesses before he created this movement. And he always, because his first wife, Rebecca, was a stripper. She had stripper friends. He said he owned a club and a strip club. Come to find out, it was an escort service. He bragged about it a lot. That's when I knew this was about him. This was particularly his case, because he loved to brag about how he was a playboy, how he got women. And he had a lot of women keeping in touch with him. He had lawyers keeping in touch with them, strippers keeping in touch with them. There's a lot of women that take care of this guy. And then he told a story about how he did the kidnapping and how he threw the dude in the trunk over kilos that he was trying to come up on. He was trying to hit a lick on one of his brother's plugs or something like that. Paperwork says otherwise. So I call a homie of mine that was actually his cellie 3 years, another compadre. I'm not going to say his name. And I asked him, I go, hey, bro, did you ever read Snoop's paperwork when you were in the cell? He was like, actually, nah, I never did. He goes, I read about that federal informant that was his co-defendant, but that's about it. And I go, okay, you never read his paperwork? He was like, nah. So I told him what I read. And he pointed it out. He's like, hey, bro, to be honest with you, somebody years ago put that paperwork on blast and put him on blast, bro. And I wasn't sure if I was true because I didn't know how to find it. I go, well, yeah, I found it and I'm actually reading it. And I'm about to tell you guys what it says. So I made a few more phone calls that people that were his cellies. They all said the same thing. So I tell all these individuals together, I'm like, hey, don't you find that a coincidence that per our embracement procedures is we read each other's paperwork to see if we make statements due to the stranger incident, because he embraced stranger and knowing stranger was a snitched on his cellie. Snitched on his co-defendant. I go, it's in our laws. It's rider law. We read each other's paperwork. And see, what people don't know is that not only do we screen paperwork, but we have to screen the 114D lockup orders, which says why you've been to the hole. 128Gs. The 128G is paperwork that's constructed by the committee. So you can't alter it. You can't change what it says because the committee is going to classify you and your program. In that paperwork in the 128G, it will stipulate if, when you disassociated yourself from the active side, the mainline side, if you made statements coming over to the SNY, it will stipulate that. Do you really think the prison administration is going to keep that information away from the committee itself? Just based on prison gangs and they don't want you to get hurt? No, it's going to be in your 128G. It's also going to say if you have any sex offense charges. It's going to say everything about you because you're going to be classified. It won't say what you said, but it'll say, yeah, this individual conducted an interview with IGI on these such and such dates to debrief crossing over. It'll say stuff like that. So you can be notified, and it could be displayed on paperwork whether or not you actually, because, you know, if the NF went through the THU, it will stipulate, you know, he went to the THU, he underwent and completed the debriefing process and graduated from the THU to be released to SNY population. That's what it will say. So we read all that now. And we can get that. You can actually submit. I can't remember what the request is, but it's to review your C-file and gain copies of all that. So if you can't provide that copy, then you're not looking at a good embracement process. You might not even get embraced based on, we want to know if you made any kind of statements. Because working with the canine is against the law. We all know that. Since 2012, and I've talked to individuals that have been around since 2005, since 2000, remaining members, that all been in the movement, and every one of them said, we've never read his paperwork. Why is that? Because this individual has considered himself the president and the sole founder, that you guys then decided to say, you know, we're going to screen yours as well. But since he was the primary individual on the basis of the start, everybody else is we're screening each other's paperwork. We never thought to look at the individuals who's appointing himself the leader. Hey, man, you're held accountable as much as anybody else. Since we've been holding them accountable at these committees and on these compounds. So that's what bothered me. And everybody was like, you know what? You're right. No one's ever read his paperwork. So I said, okay. I took screenshots of the paperwork and I submitted it to all the homies. I go, look, bro, this is what I read. So tell me if I'm misinterpreting this wrong before I jump the gun. And in the paperwork, even though one of his co-defendants was a federal informant, he did this kidnapping case with this individual. They get caught. He's in the back of the police car talking about the case to the individual, and they put a secret recording tape right there. So they heard everything that he was talking about to his co-defendant. They have it on tape, but it was inadmissible through court, even though he was questioned on it. So he was rebuttaling that fact to get it dismissed as inadmissible evidence. I get that. But you still were talking in the back of a cop car. You know, where's your intelligence at about what was going on? So you're kind of like dry snitching because you know you're in the back of a cop car. You might want to be quiet. Second, they recorded everything on a tape. And the DA heard it, and they were questioning about it, but they just couldn't submit the evidence as a tape. But they did question what was on the tape, and that's the part that they're going through an appeal because some of that information was used to convict them, some of it wasn't. The part that bothered me is that he's always identified his co-defendant as, you know, a federal informant or the individual. I don't know which ones they're trying to identify who's working as a federal informant, but the victim does say what happened. Obviously, he's a victim. He's going to make those statements. But the part that bothered me the most is that his co-defendant refused to testify at trial. But Snoop took the stand. And Snoop told the courts everything that happened. But yet his co-defendant gets 28 years and Snoop gets like 10 plus consecutive sentences. But he gets a lesser sentence than his co-defendant. And his co-defendant, I guess, was he was the one trying to identify as being a federal informant. But why did your co-defendant refuse to testify on the stand, but you took the stand and said what your involvement was, what the girls and the escort services that you used to set him up involvement was, and what your co-defendant involvement was? So why did you feel the need to relinquish the information of what actually took place to provide a defense for your own case, but throw your co-defendant under the bus? That's what it looks like. But I was like, no, I don't want to reach. I'm not trying to reach. That way everybody's like, oh, you're just making this up. But it's right. The case law's right there. Go read it. You guys give me the interpretation about it. My boys all read it, and all they seen was that his co-defendant refused to testify at court, but Snoop took the stand at court. That's what was mind-blowing. So if my boys, inconsiderate of this movement, seen that and said, go ahead, proceed with that video, put it out there, put them on blast. That's what I'm here doing. And I understand why people want me to, like, people are thinking that, you know, I shouldn't be doing this. But here's the thing. The basis of this YouTube channel has been for two reasons. One, I'm trying to redirect the youth to live a better life than we've had, than the people that have been in my position have. Second, you know, being I'm under this label, and based how Snoop defamed me, I've always just trying to change the interpretation of you guys towards not just riders, but anybody that's inactive. Like, man, just give us an equal opportunity. Give us a chance to come out here and live our lives. Now, if we're disturbing the peace and we're acting like gang members, then by all means, he deserves what he has coming. But for the rest of us that, you know, did join these SNY groups and came out and said, you know what, I'm cool off prison. I'd rather just live a normal life. I'm cool. We didn't abandon our ideologies. We decided to say, you know what, we're going to do what everybody else does and live a great life, live a prosperous life. But being that he's an individual who's portraying himself to be a leader and the main dude, and you know his persona all over YouTube, you got to remember, I have a sole responsibility for my people, because I didn't want my people looking up to this individual no more. I didn't want a lot of my people to go down that route that he's going and throw their lives away. You know, I still love my brotherhood to the point that I want to see the better from my brotherhood. I don't want to hear about my brothers going back to jail because Snoop said this, Snoop said that, Snoop did this, Snoop did that, Snoop wants this done. It's like, bro, he is not a leader. And we made that a point for the longest time, that we will have no leader. That we're all a democracy. We all follow the same ideologies. We all have the same goals and objectives, is to come home and do good, do what we got to do in jail, make it home, and that's it. Never look back. But what he's causing is he's appointing himself as leader, and he's using all these ears that are wet behind the ears that don't know no better to follow his ways. So he's always going to gain a majority vote because he's preying on the weak-minded individuals, while a lot of us that are actually solid and can have our own ways of thinking are out here that finally made it home. And yet we have to deal with these intricacies that he's causing and making people look bad. So that was my point, because in the beginning I told my brother, I was like, look, bro, the whole purpose of me doing my YouTube channel was like, I'm trying to show that the movement is better than this, bro. And I want to encourage my boys too as well. Like, man, do something better with your life than going to the streets and trying to be a thug again. Being a thug is played out. That's just dumb already. Like, I'm sick and tired of it. Let's look at what I'm doing. I created a YouTube channel to guide the youth in a different direction. And that's another reason why I put this on blast, because I'm trying to show the youth this. Every individual that's whether it's an organization, a mob, whatever, the Italian mafia bosses do it. They work with FBIs. Sometimes, you know, they got immunity, throwing other mafia bosses underneath to save their family. How many NFs have been held in high regard and have debriefed and have went SNY? But these are the leaders you guys look up to. And I'm trying to teach the youth, don't look up to no leader. Be your own leader. Be your own man. That's why I decided to put this information out there. Because not only am I encouraging my boys, like, man, you guys need to stop listening to this grown man who just threw his life away, who was supposed to be coming home last year and caught 64 years over his own stupidity and ignorance. You guys want to follow that and end up in the same position as him, when I'm trying to encourage you guys, like, do something like this. Positive, productive. You know, I'm talking to the youth. I'm giving back to my community. You know, I'm sharing my stories and taking care of my family with the money, and I'm working every day. Every day I go for 8 hours, work, come home, take a nap, get up, do a video, upload it, take another nap, get up, take care of my house, go back to work. And I do that every day. So it's hard work and it's consistency. That's what I'm teaching the youth, because there's a lot of actors out here that want to be leaders, that want to take over these regiments, that want to be these political figures in prison. You have no business looking up to them individuals, because they started off just like you. You can be them people if you want to. But instead, I want to encourage you not to follow no leaders, because look at what we found about our leader. So-called leader, should I say. Is that this paperwork is saying otherwise, and he's going to try to prove a point that it doesn't say that. But, bro, it says it in black and white. The courts interpret it as this. Your co-defendant refused to take the stand, but you took the stand and told the courts everything that went down, how you set the dude up using your women from the escort services, what your co-defendant did. If your co-defendant refused to testify on his own behalf to create his own defense, it's probably because he didn't want no details of his involvement in. He was pretty much pleading like, no, I plead the fifth. So while your co-defendant's pleading the fifth, you're taking a stand saying everything you've done, which didn't make no sense, only to create a defense for yourself. You threw your co-defendant under the bus. And we look at it as like, man, whether you're dry snitching or snitching, you took the stand on your co-defendant. But yet you're in the prison system saying your co-defendant was a federal informant. So that was the moral of this video. Let's put this dude on blast. Let's see what he comes up with. I'm pretty sure he's going to come up with it. But hey, There's been 3 occasions in the prison system that we've heard about this individual that we can't confirm. But I pointed him out, the situation with Mo, when he told Mo to snitch on the NC's and Scrappy's group. That's why a lot of our members walked away when they heard that he admitted to that. We didn't hear him. But then you approve Stranger, you grant him permission, you forgive him that he snitched on his co-defendant, and now he's the one that took the stand against you. That's the second mistake you made. And the third one is that the NCs do actually say that they have paperwork on Snoop, but we haven't seen it. But these are all 3 different sources that keep coming up from 3 different parties and like different time frames, and we're kind of like, man, why does it keep coming up? And then we read this. That's what's bothering us. But all my boys, just know all my boys got screenshots of the paperwork. A lot of my boys in Northern California and Tulare County and Kings County said, throw it out there. Everybody deserves to know that none of us should be trying to follow this leader or listen to this leader, because we don't. He makes it seem like they do, and he has his little, he has his little foot soldiers. Every leader has his little foot soldiers. But, we have our own way of thinking, man, and anybody can get it. We do not allow this to go on, and we finally have the opportunity, and I had the means to actually review his paperwork personally. I have the opportunity to put it out there and say, you know what? You're going to be on disregard like you put me on disregard because you put my life at risk. The same goes for you. But my message to the youth is that, look, man, anybody can portray themselves to be a leader. You don't need to follow any leader who claims to be a leader. Just be your own man, be your own leader, because you're going to have to deal with it like this on a consistent basis. This ain't the first time where I had to point somebody out who thought they were of a prestige, who looked at themselves like a Greek god, and we put them on blast like, bro, you're flawless. You're not flawless, bro. You got flaws like every other man. That's what you're going to find out, that you were following these leaders for so long, and the whole time that you believed that they were incorruptible, they were probably less than you. So appoint yourself to be a leader in your own life, of your own priorities. So with that being said, like I always say, it's one life, one chance. When they got one chance to do this right, let's get it done. Peace.